Believing that you're destined for heaven when you're not would be the most tragic self-deception. David Servant's book, The Great Gospel Deception, will help you be sure that heaven will be your eternal home. Order your copy at HeavenWord.tv.
Okay, welcome back. Here we are in Matthew 28, although we're finding ourselves tempted and yielding to the temptation to jump over to the other Gospels to see exactly what they say. And if you take your time in this, you can harmonize the stories and put together the pieces without making any assumptions that you would have otherwise made. We read John's chronological rendition of the story, and we saw how Mary went early in the morning. At least Mary went early in the morning while it was still dark. Saw the tomb, saw the stone rolled away, ran back, and got Peter and John. It's interesting, if you had only had Luke's gospel, you wouldn't piece it together exactly like it actually happened. Can I refer you a moment away from Matthew and over to Luke's gospel? Right after the angels there in the tomb tell the women, after Peter and John have left, what exactly has transpired. We read in Luke chapter 24 and verse number 9, and they returned from the tomb and reported all these things to the 11 and to all the rest. Now they were Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary the mother of James. Now we've already heard of those two Marys. We never heard of Joanna yet. And also the other women with them were telling these things to the apostles. But these words appeared to them as nonsense, and they would not believe them. Now listen to this, verse number 12 of Luke chapter 24. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb, stooping and looking in. He saw the linen wrappings only and went away to his home, marveling at what had happened. You would think by reading Luke's account that happened after the women reported to the disciples that they had this vision of angels. And of course, Luke hasn't even ever told us about Jesus appearing to Mary or any of the other women at that point. So you can see Luke was not a slave to chronology. He was just trying to get the salient points across, and it's really John's gospel that brings it all together. All right? So let's go then to Matthew's gospel, back to chapter 28. This is kind of our foundation place where we launch off following these rabbit trails into other gospel writers. And leaving where we left off in Matthew's gospel last time, as these angels are speaking to the women who they appeared to the women as they were appearing in the tomb. They said, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you're looking for Jesus who has been crucified." Verse number 6 of Matthew 28. "He is not here, for he has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he was lying. Go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and behold, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you." And they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to report it to his disciples. But at some point in time, according to Matthew's gospel, and behold, Jesus met them and greeted them. And they came up and took hold of his feet and worshiped him. Again, I almost wonder if there wasn't 3 trips by women to the tomb when I try to piece all this together. Mary by herself at first, then coming back with Peter and John with a few other women, then leaving for a time to go report it, then coming back again. And when did Jesus appear to them during all this? It just, isn't as clear as you might want it to be. But if I had been them, I don't know. I think I'd have been tempted to keep going back there. I mean, goodness, if the second time you went back, you saw some angels, wouldn't you want to think about maybe sneaking up there and seeing those angels were still around? If you told other women what you had seen or other people, wouldn't they be running to that tomb to see, first of all, if nothing else, just the stone rolled away? And wouldn't you want to go with the people who told you? And wouldn't the people who told you want to go with you? They might have gone 5 or 10 times that day, for all we know. And Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John just don't tell us all those details because they want to get the important points across. And when skeptics try to pick away at this and say, well, you see, Bible's not inspired, facts contradict and so forth. Good grief. First of all, the important facts, like, for example, the stone was rolled away. There were angels. Women saw the stone. Women saw the angels. Peter and John ran to it. Well, in fact, remember we read in Luke's gospel, Luke doesn't even mention John going. Luke only mentions Peter running and looking in there and seeing the linen wrappings. See, you have to put it all together. But when skeptics attack this and they say, well, this doesn't, fit. Honestly, do you think that these men, if they were, all trying to put across a hoax, wouldn't have done a better job at making sure that their facts all harmonized in order to perpetrate their hoax? When John wrote his gospel, perhaps decades after Matthew, Mark, and Luke wrote their gospels, don't you think that, he had their gospels as source gospels that he could have read and realized, well, if I say something that contradicts what they say, people aren't going to believe this story. He didn't say anything that contradicted anything anyone else said. He just added to the story details that we wouldn't have known otherwise, and he put it in a chronological order. And even with John's gospel, I think still we make assumptions about the chronology of it, the consecutive timing of events and so forth. Just because we're reading about Mary at the tomb at one time doesn't mean that the next verse there hasn't been an hour that's transpired between Mary at the tomb in this verse and Mary at the tomb in the next verse. Sure, that's entirely possible, okay? And the gospel writers have proven that. And so if you want to take the time, well, just take the time and read them all. In fact, you could even write out. I did this one time when I was a pastor. I wrote out all the points of every gospel writer, and then I slid them around until I got what I considered a harmonious rendition of the events of the Resurrection Sunday. And even then, I was unsure about certain things because I had to make assumptions, about when certain things happened. And it'd be no shocker at all for me to get to heaven and find out that Mary went back and forth from that tomb 5 times on Sunday morning, bringing a different group of people every time. Okay, and the Jesus, Mark says that in verse number 9 of Mark chapter 16, now after he had risen early on the first of the week, he first appeared to Mary Magdalene. Well, that harmonizes with the rest of the gospel. We have him appearing to a whole bunch of women at one time on the resurrection morning. All right? Okay. Well, we're out of time. Next time, perhaps the greatest, most exciting Bible study there ever existed in all of human history. I'll tell you about it. See you next time.
HeavenWord 7 is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you.